Hi guys, it's Aoife from Words of Clover and I'm here to do a book tag today. So I was tagged in the book reviewer tag by Victoria over at What Victoria Read, and I will leave Victoria's channel linked down below as well as the original tag creator. First question is about making reviews, and it is, where do you post your book reviews outside of BookTube? So I always post all my book reviews on Goodreads as well, and then also this year I've started using Storygraph as well, which I quite like. I've tried to make quite a big effort to try and write a written review for almost every book I've read this year, and I think bar three, two of them, the most recent books I've read, I have been able to do that. So I'm really glad to be able to do that. I also do post book reviews on Instagram when I do kind of like a Bookstagram post, and I also this year as well have started doing that thing where I update my Twitter and my Instagram stories with every book I've read. So I kind of have like a running thread or a story highlight of all the books I've read, and I do kind of mini reviews for them as well. So I do that on Twitter and Instagram. So if you guys aren't following me on there and you want to kind of for some reason keep up with that, I will leave those links down below, so you can follow me there if you want to. Question number 2 is, what is your star rating system? So for me, 1 star is a terrible book. I really did not like it. 2 stars generally is generally like I really didn't like it, but there were some elements of the writing or the story or the character that I did enjoy, but just not enough that it would be a 3 star, but not bad enough that it would be a 1 star. 3 star for me tend to be my most varied. I would have like a very strong 3 star, or I would have like a low 3 star where I just think it's just not bad enough, or I not enjoy it enough for it to be like a 2 star. So yeah, 3 stars tend to be one that like it really depends on the book and really depends on my feelings. So for 3 stars it really has to be like you would really have to read my review or see what I really think about the book to understand exactly how I feel about it. 4 stars I think tend to be probably the most, 3.5 and 4 stars I say are the most regular review or the regular star rating I would give a book. 4 stars tend to be I really enjoyed that book, but for whatever reason it just wasn't a favourite of mine. And then 5 stars are favourites, are books that had a really big impact on me, books that really like hit me in the feelings, or books that made me think a lot, or just books I thoroughly had a really great reading experience. There are books that maybe not like wouldn't be like the best written books in the world that would be 5 stars for me, just because I had a really enjoyable reading experience with them. At the end of the day, like all reviews and like reading and things are subjective to that person and what you're going through at the time you're reading the book as well. So like book reviews are very personal, they do change from person to person. And then there are a lot of books that sometimes I would give 4 stars, and then later on, a few months or a year later, I give it a 5 stars. I will bump that book up if I feel like I've been thinking about it a lot, or it has a much more lasting impact on me than I thought originally when I had finished it. So there are some books like that, such as Not Forgetting the Whale by John Ironmonger. That's a book that I gave 4 stars, but I think when I think about it now, it will be a 5 star read for me because it's a book I've never been able to forget. Question 3 is to convince the viewer to read a favourite book of yours with 5 words or less. And for me, I'm going to talk about The Radium Girls, and this is a non-fiction book that is just absolutely fantastic, and it's about the girls who used to work in factories where they used radium. They started this movement, they like sued the companies for basically killing them really with radium poisoning, and the things that these girls had to go through while they were fighting this really big lawsuit, and like it happened to so many of them, is so sad, but their just resilience and the way they came together, and just how the author explored these girls and who they were beyond the sickness that envelops them was just done so well. I really enjoyed it. So for the words, I have hard-hitting, emotional, inspiring, and woman power. So yeah, I really encourage anyone to read this book. I think it's just such a good book. Number 4 is, which book was the hardest to review and why? And for me, I don't have a specific one for this. Like, I think memoirs are always kind of hard to review, especially if they're books like memoirs around really hard things. Because like, you know, you don't really want to be reviewing or like putting a rating on like someone's life experience, but at the same time, sometimes it comes down not just like about their life experience, but the writing in the book and how the story is portrayed to the reader. So I do like review them, but I do find them kind of hard to review sometimes. And then there's other books that like I really enjoy, but I might have like an emotionally hard time reading it, like things like Asking for It by Louise O'Neill, which like had me in such a turmoil when I was reading it, and then Beartown by Frederick Backman, and the second book after that. The second Beartown book in particular was one that I found like I was on like an emotional roller coaster, and I don't know if I had like an extremely pleasant reading experience with it. So like it was one of those months that like I really loved the writing in it, but I just was a bit jumbled in terms of how I felt while I was reading it. Question 5 is, are there any books that you won't review or give a star rating out of principle? For me, like not really. I tend to just like review or rate anything. I did have a video last year when I changed my channel name after J.K. Rowling came out as like a TERF and all the terrible things she started to say around trans people. I did kind of completely it just felt completely turned off, like Harry Potter and the world of Harry Potter. So I did change my channel name. I was thinking of doing it anyway, and that was like the push it gave me to really distance myself from it. Now those books are always like really special to me, and like the story itself, and those books were like friends to me when I had very little people, like when I had no friends in my life. Those books are my friends, and Harry and Ron and Hermione, like they all mean so much to me. But at the same time, I don't feel comfortable like reading them or talking about them or enjoying that world anymore, particularly on a public platform, when I know that world, and well, not the world, but the author has been so hurtful to so many people. I just don't want to do that. I don't want to promote her. I just don't think she is a particularly nice person, which is such a shame, because she made such an amazing world. It's very hard to compute the two things in your head. But yeah, I just don't feel comfortable talking about that anymore, and even seeing other people still talk about Harry Potter merch and like talk about like those kind of things like on their channels or online, I sometimes still feel uncomfortable around it. So yeah, I just don't feel comfortable, like, I guess, talking about those books. If I ever do reread them again, it would just be for my own personal enjoyment, like off the internet. I don't need to talk about them, and the same goes for probably some like other series like Twilight and stuff like that. Question number 6 is a book you really want to read, has terrible reviews. Do you still read it? This would actually make me want to read it more. When I see loads and loads of hype for a book, like it makes me like want to like put it on my want to read shelf, but it might not necessarily push me to read the book. And sometimes a lot of hype around a book will actually put me off it, and I'll like wait a while before I read it, so I'm not like completely on that hype train. So if I suddenly see someone say this book was terrible, I really hated it, or the characters are boring, or this happened and I hated it, I might actually be like, oh, okay, I'm more intrigued to read it now, because now I want to see where I fall. And yeah, bad reviews actually make me want to read the book more. Question 7 is, where do you view book reviews outside of BookTube, and what is your preferred format? For me, I just like wrap-ups and vlogs on BookTube, and then other places would generally just be Goodreads or Instagram and things like that. It generally is mostly like majority of BookTube, and then just if I see people reviewing, people who I follow on Instagram, if I see them reviewing a book, or if they're talking about a book on their stories and things like that. So yeah. Nate is, at what point do you view reviews of a book you are reading, before, during or after, and do you seek out reviews similar to your own or opposing? So I'm a little bit of before, or a little bit of both, I should say. So sometimes if I'm reading a book and I mark it currently reading on Goodreads, I might have like a little flick down to see who are my friends who like I will follow the reviews who've read it already, and I might just see what their star rating is. I try to avoid like reading proper like written reviews in case there's any spoilers, or in case I feel like it puts a bias in my mind already before I read the book, because I feel like that has happened before. Sometimes if I'm struggling through a book, or if I feel like I'm picking up on something in a book that I haven't heard other people say, or if I'm not really sure about, I might read a couple of reviews just to see if someone has mentioned that. Like I'll try and find reviews that are like non-spoilery, and I'll try and see if people like are thinking the same way, or if people had like trouble with the book that I might be having trouble with. And then afterwards I would generally read different reviews, and I just like to read all reviews. I'll read reviews from people who liked the book, who didn't like the book. I find them all quite interesting, and I like to see, like, some people might catch up and catch things in books that I didn't. They might like things, they might not like things that I didn't see. So yeah, it's always really interesting to see reviews from both sides. Question number 9 is, what book have you read with the lowest rating on Goodreads that you loved? So I actually did two things for that. I looked at the book that I've read that just generally has the lowest rating, and then I also saw one that I loved that has a low rating. So for the one that I just have read that had a low rating, that was Carnivalesque by Neil Jordan, which had a 2.59 average rating on Goodreads. And this is about a boy who goes to a carnival. He goes into this like hall of mirrors, and basically he gets trapped in these mirrors, and this foundling comes out of the mirrors and goes home with his parents, and it's kind of like what happens there. It's a little bit magical and mysterious, and I think I gave it 3 stars. Like, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't anything spectacular, and I feel like maybe there's parts of the story that like I missed, that were like deeper, that I missed. Yeah, it was one that probably disappointed me a little bit. I was expecting to like it more. And then a book that I loved, like that I really love, that for some reason has a low rating on Goodreads, is Frog Music by Emma Donoghue, which is a 3.17 average rating on Goodreads. And Frog Music is set in San Francisco during the Spanish influenza, I think. and we are following two women who end up kind of getting closer, and they start this like romantic relationship very quickly within the course of a few days. And this is one of these things that's based on like a true story, and Emma Donoghue has like made this story around this murder of this woman that has happened, and we are following one of these women now in this relationship and kind of the days leading up to the point where she's murdered and what may have happened around that. So it's kind of like a murder mystery plus this like sapphic love relationship, historical fiction, plus like this kind of heightened tension of the fact that there is this influenza going around. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I just love Emma Donoghue's writing. I love the fact that she writes so many different types of stories. I love the characters she creates, and yeah, I just really got on with this book, and I'm surprised that not like other people didn't like it. So yeah, I really want to reread it soon. Question number 10 is, which book have you read with the highest rating on Goodreads that you have loved? And I've done the same thing. I've just gone for what book I've read that has the highest rating and a book that I hated that has the highest rating. And a book that has the highest rating is Heartstopper Volume 3, which is 4.64 of an average rating. This is no surprise because these are like the cutest books ever. I just absolutely love these. If people have, for some reason, don't know what a Heartstopper novels are, they are like these graphic novels about Nick and Charlie, who are two secondary school students in England, and it is just about their little love relationship that starts, and it is just the sweetest thing ever, and it just makes you like smile and laugh and gives you all the warm bubbly feelings. And yeah, I really love those graphic novels. The book that I actually didn't like that has a very high rating in Goodreads is A Voice in the Wind by Francine Rivers. And this is a book I read a long time ago, and it is a historical fiction book, but it's actually Christian fiction, which I think when I originally picked it up from the library I didn't know was Christian fiction. And it is based around like the Romans and gladiators, and we're following a gladiator, and I think we're following like a servant girl, and then we are following a rich girl, I think, who might be part of this like rich family, and she's like not a particularly nice person and takes advantage of the gladiator character who we're following. She like fancies him, I think, and I think she takes advantage of him. And this book was just like, a lot of people really liked this book, but I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars, and I just found it really boring and just bland. And I feel like because it was a Christian fiction, it was missing some of like the blood and the sex and like the gory violence and the excitement that you actually should get for like a gladiator era book. And yeah, so because of the genre it was, which like is no fault of its own, I just didn't know that when I picked it up, so I was expecting a lot more from the book. So that is it for the book reviewer tag. Please let me know what you guys think down below. Have you read any of these books? And for people that I tag, I think I'm going to tag the BookTube goddess, Kirsty from Kirsty's Reviews, and Earl Grey books. I'm actually not sure if any of those people have already done this tag. I hope they haven't, but if you haven't done it, then I'll tag you. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys again next time. Bye!